do a little deep dive into deliverability. This is where, my core competence is in information systems and integrations and project management. But when I started doing email marketing years and years ago, my questions were always surrounded around, well, I'm trying to optimize, obviously, or minimize wasteful spending. And that is always the case. So when you're supplying back reporting for campaigns that I was sending out on behalf of clients in my past life, they always questioned, well, where are the bounces and where are those from? And when I started realizing that you're still paying for those messages to be sent, because our system is still attempting to send to those, so why were they bouncing, right? And trying to get to the bottom of that, to minimize that, to try and get the message out to the most people possible. So why the bleep? Did it bleep? Did it bleep, bleep, bleep? Did they not get the email? Deliverability breakdown. So, and I think monitoring your deliverability is so beneficial, but I think it's kind of almost an afterthought for most, because they don't know there's a problem until somebody calls to complain. It's not brought to their attention that they're not getting your content until somebody calls to complain. So for that one complaint, how many other people also did not get the message? And maybe they're not didn't have the opportunity to see your message to be able to know about your event, right? So they don't know what they don't know. Obviously, you want to make sure you optimize your chances of getting into the inbox so your message can get read. So also we'll talk about what contributes to your email deliverability. We'll go over some of the 5 C's of email strategy and what the different reasons for your organization emails could be filtered or blocked from being received in recipient inboxes, and how you can overcome some obstacles to optimize your email program. So really that's what it's all about. It's optimizing your email programs, because at the end of the day there's a lot of factors that are just not under your control. You just try to minimize or have control over what you can control, and kind of handle retroactively any issues. Okay? So why is continually monitoring your deliverability so important to your organization? Cold hard cash. It's the money. And if you have a set budget for your communications, for your department, you could be wasting money. You could be using those dollars elsewhere if you weren't spending those. So that's why I highly recommend deliverability. Is that, to me, I balance my checkbook down to the penny. My first major in college was accounting, but then I realized it would drive me nuts. So, but I still am very frugal and cost conscious. In fact, I even saved a couple $100 by taking a one-stop flight last night, and it turned out it didn't work in my favor so good, so I got in a little bit late. The first-class bathroom was actually leaking, so the first-class people had to come into coach, go to the bathroom, and that put us back about an hour, and I missed my connection, and so hi, Atlanta. It was fun. But, okay, anyway. So wasted email spend. Invalid email addresses. Invalid email addresses are subtracted out, but they can cost you a little bit of money when you're trying to do some analysis on why they're invalid, and reaching, using the internal resources your own internal resources to reach out to the blocking organizations or any of the organizations to get their email addresses. Though that has a cost too. It might be a soft cost versus a hard cost, but excessive email bounces, emails filtered into junk spam folders. And that's really the emails filtered into junk and spam folders. That's what I want to pay the closest attention to, because you don't know what you don't know. You don't know if they're getting into the spam folder. People don't know they're there. How many people look at their spam folder once a day? All right, we have 2 out of the room. Or 3, okay, 3 out of the room. I maybe, there was a couple days there when my junk folder was turned on that real emails were making it through to there, and that scared me enough, because my nickname is Proactive Polly, otherwise known as PP. I don't like to not be responding. Yeah, thank you, Ron. I don't like to be responding a day late for something when I could have addressed a client concern earlier. All right, so how do you know if they're reaching an inbox? Well, there are some tools inside the system that you could leverage. It's basically a domain delivery report. Now, it's sending to a seed list. It's not actually looking at the behaviors of the recipients you're sending it to, right? So you could send an email, test that's just using, sending it to yourself. It's using the seed list. It's using basically return path, which is the tool that we use. And so it's finding if those emails are going into those seeds inbox, bulk box, or going missing altogether. And it's more of a diagnostic tool to show you basically so you can make some business assumptions based on that information. Here's a graphic of that report, so you can see, okay, well, Yahoo, if we're going, if you have a high concentration, you might not care about this, right? Because maybe you're not sending to a lot of Yahoo addresses or Gmail addresses or AOL. That's only the only time that this would make a lot of sense to do, because there is a cost associated with this report. So when a domain delivery report is enabled, and this might be true for your prospect. You might want to always enable this feature for any of your prospect sends. You will see the domain delivery tab in the email stats. So if you did not enable the report, you will not see that tab in your email stats. You'll just see the default delivery activity, click tracking, and stats filter tab. So what contributes to deliverability or ability to reach an inbox? The sum of all parts of an email strategy plan. And so on a show of hands, how many have an email marketing plan that you follow? All right, you get a gold star today. Bring it. I think I clicked the battery dead on this thing. Okay, anyone have a battery? All right, just do this, yeah. Oh, and I got shocked. Oh, that's not working either. Short interlude. My PowerPoints were so big, I couldn't email them, and they're not working in here. So thank you. Was it just stuck on the slide, or? Yeah. It just really wanted me to go over that ad nauseum. Sorry. Okay, so where do you start to build your email strategy plan? Okay, so I came up with this thing a while ago called the 5 C's, and there's a Cookie Monster there because I have kids and I like Sesame Street. Even when they're not watching, I sit there and watch it. But C is for cookie, but it can also mean configuration, content, create, criticize, and continue. So the 5 C's, the first one is configuration. So this is where we address any of the deliverability issues that you might come into play here, your firewall settings, IP address, dedicated or shared, DKIM or domain keys, sender ID or SPF record, or basically any authentication technologies that you can have into play before you ever start hitting the send button. Okay. For our new customers, there are you can use the platform right out of the gate. You don't have to wait until you're integrated, but the things that we want to make sure are in place before you hit the send button, obviously, is the authentication, because we want to optimize your deliverability going out of the gate. So the 5 C's of content. So obviously, you want to come up with content your recipients find value in, right? So you might come up with, this is our content, and this is what we really want to talk about, and this is our new thing, and those are all of your initiatives. What you really have to do is ask yourself what your recipients find value in and what they want to receive. Like what's the value proposition for your association, and what content do they want? Obviously, then you have to give them the content that they ask for and they expect. At a certain day and time, and be consistent with that. So if your monthly newsletters on always on the first Monday of the month, people come to expect that, and when they don't receive it, they'll call and complain, or hopefully they'll call and complain because hopefully the perceived value of that content is high. Also that the email has a clear call to action. Obviously just a blanket email out there. And I saw an example recently. I'm looking at some open rates and looking, and there's not one link in the email. Not one link. And so I'm trying to measure engagement. Well, how are this? What am I measuring here? I mean, there's no links to click. There's no information for them. So would you just want me to see if they opened it or not? I mean, that's really the most elusive metric that there is an open, right? Because people can read your entire content in their preview pane, and it's not considered an open until they either download the tracking pixel or they click through. So it's really having a clear call to action. I mean, is it a button? Is it a link? Give me something. You know, well, what do you want them to do? What's the purpose of the email? Make sure that that's very clear. Content delivered when the recipients want it. That's kind of coming into play with this new model that I'm seeing is where people are asking the recency the frequency that their members are wanting their content. And so do they want something once a week? Do they want it twice a week? And so with the ASAE model for their automated newsletter, they're actually asking people, do you want to receive something weekly, biweekly, monthly? Right? And we handle that on the Email Preference Center. All right. Obviously, content that renders correctly on whichever desktop or devices they're using. And we're seeing a huge shift. Most people are sending responsive email now. Responsive, it's not just a nice to have anymore. I think it's a must have. People are consuming your content on their devices and mobile. And I see so many times if I'm taking a look at an example of an engagement and like the icons are like tiny. I mean, like I can't even if I had a pen, I couldn't even like click on them in like the mobile version of the email. And I'm like, you guys aren't really thinking about this from a mobile perspective. You need something that's clickable with your knuckle. So those are things that we do address. But anyway, obviously responsive email being a must-have these days. The 5 C's create. So clean HTML templates. And a lot of users will get content into a template in a few different ways. Obviously, the workflow process that we always recommend is always pasting first into Notepad, then putting your cursor into the editor, and hitting Control-C to paste when you put your placeholder, the cursor just before the placeholder text, and then delete the placeholder text after. If you delete it all first, you're also deleting all the formatting in the back end that's saying, I want this paragraph to be this font and this size and this color. So there's definitely a workflow process you need to follow with really any template, but especially responsive templates, because if you're adding content in after you've deleted the placeholder, you are deleting the what is making it responsive. So clean layout using read more links to keep most of the content above the fold. Now above the fold, old direct mail marketing term, you want to minimize the scroll. I'm embracing the scroll these days. And for websites, if you go to a website now, I like the scroll. I'm even getting a little arthritis in my finger from all the scrolling. But generally, email newsletters should be kept short and sweet. If you put, the whole purpose is to have the content and to drive subscribers to your email, or I'm sorry, to your website so they can consume that content. You want your website to be that portal of information they come to. Emails should not have every single piece of information in it. People can delete emails. Always have that content exist first on your website, ideally, and then use read more links. Newsletters should have a table of contents. That's always good. Using proper use of anchors so people can jump down if they're tending to be skimmers. One article might jump out to them the most. They might want to read it right away. Anything else you might want to put further down in the template. So also a template, again, that renders correctly on whichever desktop or devices they're using. Using responsive or adaptive design. We have a design department that does this very well. They're experts at it. In fact, they know more than most inliners or other providers can provide you if you had another party design your emails. Create automated recurring message type emails to free up resources when you can put more energy into strategy and analysis. There's tools right out of the gate. You can use a combination of your integration as well as the recurring message features in the system to automate your 30, 60, and 90-day membership renewals. Or maybe you want to automate your event marketing information. Basically, anything that you want to automatically trigger, you could use a combination of a view from your AMS that syncs over and the recurring message features to automate some of these, because you don't want somebody to have to go in and manually launch these emails. That takes time, and time is precious. If you want them to be focusing more on a strategy, or even better yet, looking at your bounce logs and resolving any issues. Hey, that's just my 2 cents. Okay, so the 5 C's. Criticize. Analyze delivery metrics, your bounces, opens, and clicks. Use the bounce logs to address deliverability issues 24 to 48 hours post-deployment. Like I said, a lot of domains you're reaching out to whitelist you, they're not even going to address your concerns with any kind of legitimate answer unless you're within that time frame. Isolate subscribers who are not engaged with your emails, no opens and click-throughs. So important this time of year, guys. I can't stress it enough. If I see, why are our bounce rates increasing right now? There's a number of reasons. First, authentication. Do you have, there's still people that don't use authentication. What does that really mean, right? It just means that you're giving permission for a system to send email on behalf of your domain. So it's a little text record you add to your domain that says, hey, yeah, this system, it's legitimate. Most recipient email servers and ISPs are going to first look at authentication to see, is this phishing? Because if you don't have authentication right now, there's nothing differentiating you from a spammer. Nothing. You look just like one. If you don't pass that initial check, it's just, unless somebody has previously added you to their safe list, that's the only way that you could get through. Okay? Create a win-back campaign for non-engaged subscribers. And we have certain cycles of the year. We have basically a roadmap or cycle, if you will. And it will, there are certain times of year that are best to do these strategies. So obviously a win-back strategy, I would not recommend reaching out to non-engaged subscribers in Q4, because that's when all the ISPs have a more restrictive inbox algorithm. And that is not the time to reach out to non-engaged, because they do take note of engagement. If you're reaching out to non-engaged, it's this time of year, just go beat your head against the wall, because honestly, you're going to get so frustrated doing that. So you definitely have to go with the flow. Okay, so the 5 C's continue. Use what you have learned and apply it to future deployments. So when you're taking all these things into consideration, if you're not learning from it and changing the way you reach out or changing your strategy, you're just kind of doing the same thing that didn't work for you the first time. So recommend changing your approach. So what are the different reasons your organization's emails could be filtered or blocked from reaching recipient inboxes? Oh, we have a question. Lisa. That's all right.
I just wanted to stop before we get too far. You were talking about responsive emails before. We have a lot of emails from our sponsors.
Okay.
That come from my organization's email address. Sponsors don't. I don't know how to be nice.
I don't know how to be nice.
No, just don't.
Rachel might be able to, yeah.
We had the same problem, so what we did, and we tell the sponsors they can provide us with up to 200 words in text and up to 2 graphics of a certain maximum dimension, and we insert that text into our template.
Great suggestion. Great suggestion. And I've seen this too. Oh, sure, yes. So Lisa asked, she sends emails on behalf of their sponsors and other organizations. And so when they have their content, it's not responsive. How do you handle that situation? And then Rachel from NJCPA has implemented a strategy where they have a responsive template. They have a text, basically a word count and a couple of graphics that they have as a prerequisite, send us this information, and they flow that into their own template so it is responsive. So, okay. All right, now also other deliverability issues, there's filter levels, right? And so you have ISP filters, which you try to deal with as best you can. There's email server filters, which you can see in the email and bounce logs. There's also email client filters like junk folders. So there's all these nets that could possibly catch your email before they're actually either reach an email inbox. And so those are all the things that you need to consider. Filtering issues, and I'll just kind of high level because I know that we're, I can be rather verbose, and these slides are all available to everybody after, so it's all good. So obviously configuration, authentication, use that, highly recommend. It's super easy. It's like takes 5 minutes. People overcomplicate it all the time. It's really not complicated. It's very simple. If I can do it, anyone can do it. Okay, engagement issues, obviously that's a big deal, especially this time of year. Engagement does come into play. You only want to reach out to your most engaged subscribers. Email server filtering software issues, Postini message labs, they could be using any number of things. And that's when you need to reach out to and request whitelisting, because it's just servers talking to servers until there's people talking to people. There's email client issues like somebody has their junk folder. Filtering hoops you can jump through. Obviously, we just talked about these, so I'll breeze past this. Now, this is just a high-level DKIM implementation. So we have 3 text records here that somebody adds to their DNS. And it's really, you just log into the DNS, so whomever has access, somebody in IT, and they just simply copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. They say, hey, Jenny, I'm done. And I say, all right, we'll test. And then we'll test and just enable it on the account. Best case scenario, it's 10 minutes. But some other organizations, it's like a series of 6 phone calls, and it's painful. And it doesn't need to be. It really is simple. Okay? This is our setup on our own DNS for DKIM and Sender ID. Also, IP address. That's one of the things that I do at HighRoad every day is I see what's going on. I log into my tools. I check out sender score, return path, and I see what's going on. So if I see, right out of the gate, I see scores low to high. I see someone having a really low score. I'm going to see what's going on with that. I'll log into their account. I'll take a look. Oh my gosh, they just sent an email out to all subscribers at the worst possible time of year, and they have, like a 50% bounce rate. Okay, well, that might have something to do with it. So I'll reach out to them and I'll say, well, I did it by accident, and that's fine. I'll say, okay, well, here's how we can improve it and come up with an improvement plan. Because, a ding like that to your credit, it's not impossible to overcome. It just takes time. Okay, shared IPs. When I monitor, I see if you're on a shared IP, I see complaint activity, right? I clear any blacklists if we haven't had a blacklist in a really, really long time on our shared IPs. But it has happened because somebody will send out an email to all subscribers, something will get blacklisted. But I see complaints. So, I'll take a proactive approach. I'll reach out to you. If you have any complaints that I think, wow, this last email you sent kind of really dinged us, we might want to consider moving you to your own IP. So if you think you're doing everything right, and maybe you're still moody from delivery issues. So this is the cycle I was talking about, and going with the flow, honestly, is the easiest way. So really, at the very, very minimum, you should just make your life easier by not trying to swim upstream without a paddle, right? So at the top of this is permission. So the red arrow represents summer. It's summertime. That's when we recommend going with your permission campaigns to ask people for permission. Like, hey, are you still listening? Are you still out there? Do you still want emails from us? Are you still finding value? Drive them to the email preference center to say, we want to know. Do you still want this information from us? It's just you're getting in front of them. It's another way to get in front of them as well. As the summer months progress into autumn, that's when we really want to be segmented and suppress any non-engaged subscribers, because that's even starting like late August. That's when ISPs start to make their inbox algorithm more restrictive for the increasing holiday. People are starting Christmas in August. It's ridiculous. Back in my agency days, we were, shooting Christmas ads in July, and I always thought that was kind of weird. Now it's not so weird, right? People are getting more aggressive about sales and maybe even like a membership drive. We need to drive 20% more membership renewals by the end of the year. Well, that's a hard sell when you're reaching out to people, and who knows if you're going to get in their inbox or not because of the time of year you're doing these things. And then in the winter months, after the holidays, people start calming down. That's when to really do your learning activities. That's when to do a lot of A/B split testing to see what type of content is resonating the most with them. And learning from those type of A/B splits, multivariate testing. And then as spring approaches with the green arrow, you engage and excite. That's when you can really start talking about things you want to offer. You want to tackle the world, and everyone else is getting in a good mood. It's nice outside. That goes right into summer when you're then asking for permission. And so it's a cycle that happens every single year. And every single year there's deliverability issues that I consult with associations on. And it's because they're trying to swim upstream without a paddle. So, those are things. It's not impossible to address, membership renewal campaigns sometimes need to happen in Q4. That's fine. But there's definitely a better way to do it versus just blasting out and casting the widest net. Okay, so here's a recipe card for marketing success for associations for email marketing. It's super small, so I'm going to try and say, okay, so basically authentication. It's everything that we've talked about, reiterating everything we've talked about thus far, but then talking a little bit more about that cycle that you need to go with the flow. Best practices and takeaways. So be more strategic with your email with the 5 C's strategy. Obviously sending to only good email addresses. These are things that I think everyone just should know, but it's amazing. The simplest things are often the most overlooked. So if you don't know if an email address is good, run a test. I recommend testing. People are asking, well, how would this work? I don't know. Let's test it and see. Testing is a great way to find out with your own constituents how things perform. So only send to recipients who ask for it when they want it, when they're expecting it. Never purchase an email list. We've talked about this on our blog and why. I mean, sometimes for your prospect list, it's some people find it a necessary evil, unfortunately. There's obviously a better time to do it, and you have to be very segmented and send very small chunks versus just blasting out to the prospect list, because you will get the highest complaint rate and you definitely don't want to have that this time of year. Don't swim upstream, go with the flow for better deliverability. And if you don't, here's just an example of permission pass. If you don't have permission or you want to ask for permission, the best way to do it is just send out a simple message. Hey, here's our call to action. We'll thank you with this. Well, let's select yes so we can send you email and you're interested in staying with us. And these are basically some shortcuts so you can control what you can control about deliverability and address any issues retroactively when they arise. Okay, and if you need campaign help, we have a team that's ready to take on any challenge you might present. So never feel like you can't just reach out to us and ask the question. And thank you very much for listening to me today, ramble on about deliverability. And if you have any questions, just give me a shout out at jenny@highroadsolution.com or tweet me. So are there any questions? No, not so far? Well, wow, I covered everything.
Yes, I know.
All right.
Thank you so much, Jenny. So let's give it up to HighRoad Jenny. Thank you very much, ma'am.